you're going to do it?
Yeah.
When?
Hopefully before Rosh Hashanah.
Before Rosh Hashanah.
I'll try. We'll see.
He'll try, you mean, or you'll try?
No, I'll try.
You'll try, okay.
Okay, so today is the third day of Elul, and the 6th of September. And we're in chapter 19 of Shorish Mitzvah Tefillah. We talked yesterday, what? Of Shorish Mitzvah Tefillah. And we talked yesterday about one meaning oneness, meaning unification, bringing things together. And we talked about how Hashem unifies things in 3 dimensions. We talked about space. We didn't talk about time. He didn't mention anything about time, but that's also one of the things that we many times speak about, that from Hashem's perspective, past, present, and future are one. And what we mean by one is that they're unified. It's not the fragmented consciousness that a human being has, that we have these as separate in some way, some strange way. It's almost, when you think about it, there's almost something, well, it's not almost, there's something completely mystical about what we call the arrow of time. There's no good explanation for it.
The what of time?
Arrow of time.
Oh, the arrow of time.
Right.
Yes.
Why is it that we can only go from the past to the present to the future, and we can't go from the future to the past? What's going on? So it's been linked in physics to all kinds of different ideas. The one that's strongest today is that it's got something to do with entropy. But that also is like a very mystical concept. Why would our consciousness not be able to tell a rise in not be sensitive to entropy in both directions? Why is it only sensitive to entropy in one direction? It's very, very strange. The whole thing, why we see the way we see, why we see time the way we see, is a completely mystical construct. I don't think there's any good explanation for it physically. It's just the way it is.
Would you agree that Yom Echad in the narrative of Bereshis is basically a unification, because everything was in potential?
Right.
Right.
That's how Rashi explains it.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. And then we have, in terms of souls, so we talked about the fact that the tribes were the first ones who said Shema Yisrael, Shem Elokeinu, Shem Echad. And they said this to show Yaakov, their father, Yisrael, that they're unified.
I heard that Echad is Yaakov, and Chet is the 8 from the...
very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
4 from, yeah.
Where did you hear this?
I have a friend I called yesterday.
Very nice. So Aleph is Yaakov, and Chet and Dalet together are 12.
Yes.
The 12 tribes. This is very nice. So the whole idea of unification in the world depends on unification in the Jewish people. And again, because we're the archetype of the disparate, of how different things can be from one another. They can't be more different than this. That's the argument. And we talked yesterday about tribalism and when we got rid of it and so on. So now let's continue. Where were we? Okay. כי מהותו ועצמותו נמצא למטה כמו שנמצא למעלה, ממש בלי שום חילוק ושינוי כלל, לא בבחינת ממלא כל עלמין, לא בבחינת סובב כל עלמין. So what we're saying, that God is one, is that there can be a recognition of God as being the unifier, because He is above all of it. He's also transcendent to all of it. He created it and He's transcendent to it. But you begin to see the tension that's beginning to build here. The tension is between, if you say that Hashem is above and He's unchanging, is immutable, and He's constant, then what does that have anything to do with our fragmented reality? And in our fragmented reality, there is this multiplicity, and you're claiming that somehow, because He's above and below, He's unifying it. You're beginning to feel the tension between Hashem as transcendent to the world, as a creator, and to the world as the fragmented reality that it is. And we make this claim that because Hashem is one here and there, that He's above and He's below at the same time.
So it's unified.
So He unifies. But is it beginning to build up this tension? Like we're going to have to explain this multiplicity. וכדכתיב, כי נשגב שמו לבדו, רק הודו על ארץ ושמיים, הודו בלבד, בחינת זיו והתפשטות והרע ממנו בלבד. So first of all he says, and this is, I believe that this is his innovation. I don't know if anybody said it before him. The pasuk says his splendor is on the heavens and the earth. And the Alter Rebbe says only his splendor. Meaning it's a glimmer of who He is or what He is. Meaning when you say that Hashem is here below, you don't mean to say that what we have here is Hashem Himself. Because if it was Hashem Himself, there could be no fragmentation.
So it's an aspect.
So it's a certain aspect of Him. Which aspect? So strangely enough, and this is where the older Kabbalah comes into play, Hashem also has a fragmented aspect to Him. In other words, He's unified beyond all unification, where you don't need to unify. He's just simply one, singular as we called it yesterday. And that singularity also contains in some way fragmentation. What is that? How do you even resolve that? How do you understand that? What does that even mean? You have to say something like that. You have to say this was the earliest Kabbalah, was this breakthrough in thought that said that God is paradoxical, that He's singular, and that singularity contains everything.
Even fragmentation.
Even fragmentation. Because if you say that it doesn't contain fragmentation,
if He's, in a sense, everything, that includes...
Can.
Right? I mean,
right. That's easy. That's just the immanence. Everybody understood that.
Yeah.
Okay, He's also fragmented. But now to come and say that He's also singular and beyond all fragmentation, that's a tension already. So he has to say at some level, there's some kind of paradox here. This was the early Kabbalah. This was what they hit upon. They suddenly said, look, without paradoxes, you're not going to get very far in your thinking. And that was one of the things that the Greeks would not allow, which is why they got stuck. There's no paradoxes in Greece. You're not allowed to have a paradox.
Yeah.
Paradox is illogical. So what early Kabbalah hit upon was that you're not going to solve these problems logically. You have to allow logic that allows paradox. Now, we entirely embrace that today. Even mathematical logic is full of paradoxes.
Yeah. I was going to say
we don't have an issue with that now, right? There's plenty of paradoxes everywhere.
Yeah.
So the logic has changed immensely since the 14th century when the early Kabbalists said this. It's been embraced. It's like it's fully been included, and a lot of the innovations of, you could say, modernity are based on allowing for paradoxes and not getting hung up on them and saying, okay, there's paradoxes. I don't know how to solve them. And so much so that this has become part of logic even in some way.
Yes, I understand.
Okay,
Paradoxical effect in medicine.
There's all the time,
It's
everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere. But it's more pronounced and has more meaning when it's in logic. And as it turns out, they couldn't write, when Russell and Whitehead wanted to write the foundations of mathematics, the philosophical foundations of mathematics, they ended up very quickly dealing with paradox. And that became actually the core of everything, to build a hierarchy of paradoxes. So you can't get away from these paradoxes. You're not going to finish with them. Anyway, it creates a tension. We're going to have to address this tension some more later. So this is called just a glimmer of Hashem's singularity comes into create the world. I don't know what he means here. I'm skipping this. ולכן אומרים מלוא כל הארץ כבודו, maybe it'll become apparent from the continuation, והמלאכים אומרים היה מקום כבודו להריצו. in creation, he wants to say that the earth is meaning the mundane takes precedence over the supernal, over the heavens. And even the angels are asking, where is the place of his honor, his splendor? Where is it? Meaning they're searching for it. It's not in the heavens, it's somewhere here below. So I guess he means here what the Tanya means, that in the end, Hashem is more interested in the mundane than he is in the supernal. And that's a big topic. Let's leave it for now, because he doesn't develop it. So again, so the point is that Hashem, in and of himself, his self, is what we call Yachid.
His what?
He himself. Is what we call Yachid. Yachid means singular, there's nothing like him. It's not Echad. Echad is like unifying. אלא שבהתלבשותו בבחינת דבק העילונים, חסד וגבורה וכולי, שהם בבחינת התחלקות ופירוד לכאורה, חסד ומהות בפני עצמו, הפך מידת הגבורה וכולי, אלא שאף על פי כן הם מתייחדים מצד גילוי ערונצו ברוך הוא השורה ומתגלה בהם. דיהו וגרמו אחד ובטלים במציאות לגבי אור השם שבתוכם, כי בידוד זיו השמש בשמש. But when it comes to the fragmented reality, here Hashem is revealed in such a way that he is the unifier. So he himself is singular and is beyond fragmentation and so on. He contains fragmentations in some paradoxical way, but it's not apparent in him. It's not in any way pronounced. It has no expression there. But when he creates the worlds, it becomes expressed. And here he becomes the unifier, not the singular. He becomes the unifier. So that's why we say Hashem Echad. And how does he unify? When everything is nullified to him. If there's no nullification to God, there's no unification below. Unification here demands nullification to Hashem. There's no other way to achieve it.
That hasn't been achieved.
Right. And so far, we don't have that yet. So, when we talk about the infinite revelation of Hashem being here below and clothed here below in this reality, we call him one. We don't call him singular because it's here.
Rashi points to that, doesn't it?
Right, that's what we said yesterday. Everybody will become unified.
That's unification.
Right. לומר שאף על פי שנצלו אבק, הרי על ידי התלבשותו יתברך בהן הם בטלים ממש, עד שהוא יתברך אחד בהם. And saying that even though the fragmented reality was created, when the parts of the fragmented reality allow Hashem into them by being nullified to him, by recognizing that he is their life force, and again, like the heavenly bodies, the planets and the stars and so on, then it becomes possible for him to unify them. דהיינו שאין עוד שום דבר ממש כי הם חשיב ועין ואפס כמו זיו השמש כשהוא בגוף כדור השמש. There's an important point here. What is the point of nullification? Everybody understands we have an issue. Let's take the human being. The human being has an issue with his ego. The ego is what fragments us. So every spiritual system in the world, well, any spiritual system that's worth anything, recognizes that you need nullification. But what is the purpose of that nullification? So strangely, when all of these systems look at the purpose of nullification, their answer is because you will prevent yourself from suffering in some way. It prevents suffering. It's, in other words, it's for you. And here he's saying that the purpose is to reveal God, to make Hashem one in the world, to show the power of unification of Hashem. That's a different purpose altogether.
But it's for us to show
for everyone to reveal Hashem's oneness, you need nullification.
Yes.
It's not in order for Joe or Reuven or whoever else to prevent their suffering, which is the way that all the other spiritual systems see nullification.
That's what I thought you said. It's for us to prevent our suffering.
No. That's what they say.
That's where I was confused. Okay.
But we say this is in order to reveal.
Their whole thing is nullification for self.
Right.
That Buddhism, that whole thing is nullification.
It's self-nullification for the self.
For the self.
It's
but ours is for
the
him.
self. Right.
Okay, that's right. I didn't get it. Okay, good.
דהיינו שאין עוד שום דבר ממש כי אם חשיב ועין ואפס כמו זיו השמש ואין שייך לומר יחיד שהרי מכל מקום יש אצילת והקדש בדלים וזהו כלו חשיב בכף הדמיון אבל האור אינסוף מצד עצמו נקרא יחיד והבן. And so when we're talking about Shema Yisrael, that we're going above this reality, then you can say Yachid. But since afterwards we're saying Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, we're coming back down into reality as we said, so here you can only say Echad, you can't say Yachid where we are. וכן על דרך זה הוא ממש בבק הגשמיים שהן שבעה ריקים והארץ שבאמת קמי יתברך כולה כלא חשיבי והם בטלים במציאות גם כן כזיו השמש בשמש כמו שמבואר בליקוטי אמרים רק שלגבינו מסתירים הצמצומים כמבואר שם. And the same thing is true about everything that was created. Everything that was created like space and time and soul, everything can be unified by this infinite revelation of Hashem. That's what we mean by infinite revelation of Hashem. When there is infinite revelation of Hashem, everything becomes one. That's the whole point. And that's what we mean when we say one. It's not to say that there's not two. Because again, it's true when you say one, but one can also mean that I want to say not two. Yeah. It's true that's what it means. But that's not the intent here. The intent here is to say that God unifies everything. Because if it's only to say that God is one and not two, he says there would be no need to repeat this twice a day, every day. Okay, once in a while. But it's not an exercise. It's not a real exercise. To understand that everything can be unified, if it's nullified to Hashem, that is a daily exercise that the person has to go through, has to actually perform in their mind. You have to actually do this. So the overriding feeling of Shema Yisrael is I am nullified to God. And then I see the unity, then I can see how everything is unified. At least from my perspective, because not everything yet is unified. I don't yet feel it when I go outside. And that's really the role of Mashiach. The role of Mashiach is to bring everything to the state of nullification so everything can be unified. And we said this is not uniformity. Unification is not uniformity because every person has to learn how to do this differently. Because every person has something else to nullify, because we're all different in that sense. So it's true that many people are similar and, they'll learn the same technique basically. But still, every person is inhabiting a different space. It definitely has a different soul, and different time and so on. And to unify all that, every individual has to reach a state of nullification. Has to reach a real state of nullification, and that's what the Mashiach tries to teach the world. What does it mean to feel true nullification? True nullification means, or feels like, there is nothing but Hashem. There's nothing else here. That's true nullification. It's not so complex. It's not like you have to remove yourself.
No.
Let's just feel that this is all Hashem. Yeah. And again, not all Hashem is all the fragmented parts. All these fragments are all Hashem. It's to see that all this is like nullified. It's all unified in its nullification. ולא שאנו אומרים שאין כאן עולם כלל חס וחלילה. And again, we're not saying for a moment that this world is an illusion. There's no world here. Not at all. There is. That's the whole point of unification. If you don't need, well, you did it. If you don't need an illusion to overcome the world, like how do they reach nullification? They say everything you're seeing is an illusion. We don't need that. The world is real. It's fragmented, it's true. It's what you see. But Hashem is still one. Hashem is able to unify it here. Okay, so we'll continue next week because we're out of time.
Is that why we say that the world has to be in a state of not a great place when Mashiach comes, because it's why then for... Do you understand what I'm saying? Or does he bring it, or does the world have to be ready to bring him in? I know I'm talking...
So it's two options. It could be that it's from a good place.
$64,000 question.
I tend to think all the time that,
what do you think?
like the Rebbe said, that it doesn't have to come from pain. It should come from...
Trach gut und sein gut. That's our motto.